I've seen that when you give them toy projects, they don't do a whole lot. They're not grabbed by them. Faking up some data and having them work on it, it doesn't get that kind of sparkle in the classroom. So what I did in the first year that I was teaching Year 11 IT, it's technically IT, it's technically a BCE IT 1-2, but in fact it's much more computer science here. We have a fair bit of latitude because we don't run Year 12 IT. The kids go straight on to computer science at university from the Year 11 subject. So we have a pretty broad license to do what we want with Year 11 IT, and it's really very much computer science. And we have a computational science focus because I teach at a science school. So the kids are really passionate about science, and the key thing for me with the subject is to get it really complementing their work in the sciences and to give them the tools they need to be doing, in the long run, maybe scientific research. They already do some research projects even at Year 10, so the more we can give them in terms of computational science, the better. So we started out in the first year, I put out a call to all the scientists I knew and said, look, I've got a bunch of really keen coders, some of them are amazing, some of them are middling, and some of them are just starting out, but do you guys have any projects that you need a bit of computational help on? There's a lot of scientists out there who don't have the resources to hire a programmer and don't know enough about programming themselves to munch their data or create the systems that they need. I got a couple of good responses. One was from a molecular biologist who works on cancer research. He was studying. He knew enough computer science to know what he needed, but not enough to actually do it. And so a couple of my Year 11s teamed up with him, and they spent a lot of time going through the technicalities of the research to try to understand what it was that he wanted. And they went away and they produced a program which was what he wanted, and he came back and said, oh great, now you've done that, can we do this? And it wound up going on into their Year 12, and they kept working on it until they had to stop for their other studies. And it was really exciting because they made a material contribution to his research. He found out a whole bunch of stuff that he couldn't have found out any other way. And they're getting a paper out of it in the long run, which is pretty awesome to get a paper in cancer research when you're in Year 11. The next year we did, I put out the same call and I got a response from some physicists and some more genetics-y, molecular biology kind of people. And that year didn't work so well, it was way too high, and the kids were really excited again to be doing something real, but we didn't get a lot of results out of it that time, and I think that was a bit of a downer for them. So last year I was really anxious to get something that really worked, to try to kind of find some middle ground, to still have that real research thing going, but to make sure that I had a handle on exactly how difficult it was, and in particular so that I could scale it, so that the kids who just started programming had something that they could achieve, something that was manageable for them. And the kids who've been programming since they were in the womb and super excited and super talented had something that was just reachable, so they were really striving for it. And I teamed up with an organisation called Polperro Dolphin Tours, who run dolphin tours in Port Phillip Bay. They've collected 8 years of data on the dolphins, and they hand it over to the Department of Sustainability and the Environment every year, and they put it on a shelf. So it was handwritten data, it had never been analysed in any way. I had a bunch of volunteers transcribe it. And then the computational science project that the kids did was anything from graph one set of numbers against another to, okay, let's do some serious analysis of this stuff. And I had kids produce a heat map of where the dolphins appeared in the bay at particular times. And I also had a bunch of kids who teamed up, one to do a server-side program to sit on the machine back in Polperro's office, and another to do an app that meant that these guys were actually putting the data in digitally to start with, so there's no more of this messy transcription stuff happening. And that, again, is a project, that was last year's project, and that's still going on. The app's about to go up on the App Store, which is very exciting. It's our school's first app, and the kid who wrote it is, really just over the moon about the fact that he's done something real and it's going to be used, and He's really keen to go on supporting it long term and to build in extra features. The kid who's done the server-side app has it so that it prints out the forms that are required by the government that Polperro have to put in as part of their license, but it also spits out the data in a form that future classes can then analyze. We did a lot of stuff leading up to it. We did computational science just as an intro, when you have a bunch of data, how do you get meaning out of it? And we did a visualization unit. And we were also doing some software engineering stuff. So it was, problem specifications and problem decomposition, and how do you actually break this down into something that's manageable? And how do you check that what you're planning to do is what the client needs, and all that stuff. So that was all built into the project, and we were covering that. We covered it in advance, and we covered it as they went, so that we could go, okay, well, we've been talking about problem specs. Well, let's have a look at yours. What's missing here? What's in there? And actually, the group who did the app and the server-side program did the most professional problem specification I've ever seen. About it, and all of the comments I got at the end of the year were, this was awesome because we got to do something real.